Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to be showing you one of the most chaotic, exciting, dramatic, insane, hilarious games of chess that you likely have ever seen in your life. It's currently May 2026, and for the last month and a half, I have a chess protege. His name is Jynxzi. He's one of the most popular streamers in the world, and when he started chess in March of this year, he was 100. Like many of you, when you first start, he was atrocious. I also was atrocious when I first started chess, but he has skyrocketed his ability in under 2 months. He's broken 400 rapid, and his games are looking very good. But the game I'm going to show you today, I don't have any more ways to describe it. This was a game that Jynxzi played against the League of Legends streamer Dantes. And the two of them, and Jynxzi in particular, is playing a lot of League as of late. Those of you that are into League of Legends know that that tends to weigh on your mind quite a bit, distract you from all of your other responsibilities in life. And these two booted up a game. And what a game it was. Now, we are going to try to learn a few things from this game. We're not just going to laugh until our stomachs hurt. Plus, most of you play like this anyway. Jynxzi opens up with a Caro-Kann defense. This is his bread and butter. White plays knight c3 and knight f3. At the grandmaster level, this is known as the two knights attack against the Caro-Kann defense. At this level, nobody knows that they are playing the two knights attack against the Caro-Kann defense. It's just white developing with good principles. At this point, black has a couple of options. One of them is to pin the knight to the queen, and the idea is to then put this pawn on e6. You want all your pawns on the light squares, but you don't want to do it right away because this bishop would be blocked. Another option is to take and then proceed. Another option is to put the knight into the middle of the board, which is exactly what Jynxzi does. The drawback of this move, even though these two things attack on e4, is that white can play the move pawn to e5, forcing your knight to move. At master level, this is a variation of the two knights. But at this level, Dantes plays knight to e5. Knight to e5 does nothing. There is no threat to this move, but worse than doing nothing, it actually loses a central pawn. And black here should be taking the central pawn, and you can take it with the pawn, you can take it with the knight. Jynxzi takes it with the knight, which is fantastic board vision. Here, white plays the move d3, and with black, you can just take the knight. You can also retreat. I don't care which of these moves you do. Now, at this point, with black, your logic should be, I need to develop my knights and bishops. So maybe I play pawn, bishop, castle. Or I develop my bishop and then pawn so I don't block my bishop and castle. Or I offer a trade of knights. Another move that looks like it makes a lot of sense, but actually just straight up loses the game on the spot, and that is not an exaggeration, is the move f6. Pawn to f6 is a very natural move for a beginner. What could be more obvious than kicking the knight out of your position, which the opponent very promptly obliges? The move f6 and the way you avoid mistakes like this for yourself and the way you punish mistakes like this in the future is you are always looking for checks. And queen to h5 check is easy to spot as the attacking player. It's a lot harder to spot that this move allows this check as the defensive player, and queen h5 check basically wins the game because black has to go here, and after knight takes and you take, I take the rook. And, well, I mean, the game goes on, but there's pressure here. The next move for white should be bishop to h6, and white has a very crushing position. But the game obviously will go on. Anyway, f6 is natural, but you need to really be mindful of checks, and, well, white doesn't even spot that. Knight back to f3. At this point with black, again, you are looking to develop in castle. If you haven't gotten your pieces out and you haven't castled, that is what should be top of mind. I here would take as much central space as possible, defended by my pawns. Pawns in the middle, defended by other pawns, are really good. Jynxzi goes bishop to g4. This is one thing that he really likes to do. And as a beginner, you can oftentimes fall into a certain pattern that you do very often. If you don't have a good reason to trade a bishop for a knight, you shouldn't do it. And right here, you shouldn't trade the bishop for the knight. There is no need to do that. This trade only benefits white. But this trade, the way it happened, only benefits black. So let's break down what just happened. So again, I would like to castle my king, and that is what you should be doing. Pawn, pawn, bishop, castle. This little moment here, again, the best move is to attack the bishop because you take the center, prepare this, hit the bishop, and castle, or you can go e6 and then trade. If you want to play a move like queen to a5 here, attacking the pawn, I also don't mind that. What you shouldn't do is voluntarily give away your bishop, and white here should take with the queen. It activates their most powerful piece. You prevent doubling your pawns. You generally should avoid doubling your pawns, but white goes here. So beginner errors are being made, and now Jynxzi plays e5. So I wish he just played this move without trading the bishop for the knight, but whatever. Okay, fine. Bishop to g3 and bishop to c5. Excellent play. And now black is just going to castle on the next move, be up a pawn. White has what's called a damaged pawn structure. These are called doubled pawns. These pawns are doubled, but at least have a friend. These are doubled and isolated, which means there's no E and G pawns. So these are also isolated pawns. These are all different pawn islands of pawns, whereas black just has a beautiful bridge. d4 on the board. Now, the move d4 is a fair trade because after this capture and this capture, this is supported and the bishop is hanging. However, the transformation of this position is devastating for white. Why is it devastating for white? Because after pawn takes, this king is in the middle. And bishop to b4 check cannot be blocked. Normally, it can be blocked with a pawn or a knight or a bishop. None of those things are possible. So white's options are to move the king or put the queen here, and he now has to move the king. Now, when the king walks into the center of the board, something goes off in my mind, right? And I want everybody watching this to also pick up on this. I immediately start thinking, can I attack the king again? Now, queen e7 check is a wonderful move, and actually you force the king to d3. The king should not be that far. But at this point, I'm like, there's actually no way to attack the king. I should go back to my principles, either finishing my development or castling my king, because I know that with the king in the middle, probably in the future something bad is going to happen. King e2, but this is an even better move, because you know what? It's actually better not to attack with the queen on the straight line. It's better to attack with the rook on the straight line, because that is the rook's only power. The queen could go this way. The rook cannot. The rook cannot. If the rook went like this, they would ban it for wall hacks. Okay? Queen a5, queen b5. The king is going to be swarmed. And here white plays the move a3 and is completely lost now because black can completely swarm here. For example, queen a8 check is a beautiful move from the computer. When the king goes here, queen g6 check, king e2, rook e8. The king no longer has a legal move. It's basically mate. It's actually a total miracle. It's not. There's only bishop to e5 here. Anyway, of course that doesn't happen. Bishop to a5. We are only getting started. We have 40 moves to go of utter madness. White plays c4. Look, if your king is in the middle like this, you can't use your pawns. It is time to move the other pieces. You have to develop the bishops and the rooks and the knights if you have them. Pawn c4 just simply loses a pawn. Like, the simple move here by black is pawn takes pawn. That is what you should do. Rook e8 check is an excellent move, and here you should play pawn takes pawn. Jynxzi has a blind spot in chess as a 400. We all have blind spots. Jynxzi's blind spot, which is what I've identified doing a couple lessons, is close quarters combat. So stuff like this, d takes c4, not only attacks the king, it also opens up the queen, and actually the game would just end here with queen to d5, king to d3, and there is a mate in 2 here. A very difficult mate in 2 to spot, probably impossible for a beginner, but basically, because black has absolutely no backwards moves, queen f5 check, the king is forced to walk back here, and you mate. If you want to learn what this is called, what I like to call it, I call it the pendulum, or the boomerang. It's kind of, it goes and it comes back. Queen f5, king c4, queen b5. It's kind of funny that we can force the king to move to a closer square. There's like no alternative, right? So queen f5 and queen b5 just wins the game. Now, why is this important? Because queen e7 is not a mistake, but it's also not the best move. White plays bishop takes b8, which is... Okay, so he takes the knight, and there is no... now all of white's pieces are on the first rank of the board. They haven't moved. White has made 17 moves, and neither of the back 4 pieces have moved. White plays pawn takes d5. Here, the simple move by black is to simply take back. That's exactly what Jynxzi does. And queen b3 is excellent. Queen b3 threatens this pawn. And what's worse about that move is that it's not only a threat, and this is the way you need to think. The queen comes here, you go, can it take something? Yeah, this. And then it would be attacking this and that. And that is difficult to spot. The simple move here is to simply protect this pawn with one of the rooks or with the plethora of queen moves. Jynxzi plays here, which in theory is not a bad move because he's trying to go rook to c3. Unfortunately, he blunders this, and now the king has to move, and he loses his bishop. He has now lost 4 points of material. Shockingly, the computer still evaluates the position as better for black. How can black be down 3 points of material, a full bishop, but still be better? In chess, the two most important things are material and king safety. I say this in many, many videos, but I will just hammer it home. If you are down material, but the opponent's king is garbage, you have chances. And the move is queen to d7. One more thing, in general, you should run your king to the outskirts of the board. That's what you should do. King to f8, queen a5, and now b6. And now an instructive moment. White to play and win. With white here, you have to sense that you are in danger. And the clean technique move here by white is to simply trade the queens. The move queen b4 pins the queen to the king. There's no choice now. You can't block. You don't have a check. And after this, it doesn't matter that you have these two rooks. The king hides behind the pawn, and nobody's getting to the king. Obviously, that doesn't happen. White goes here. And not only does white not play the best move, he plays one of the worst moves. Because all of a sudden, the rook hits the queen, hits the pawn, hits the king is still in the middle of the board, the queen goes back to b3, and now there is a crushing blow here, but it's not findable. This move is not findable as a beginner. The move is rook takes d4, sacrificing the rook, and the point is that if the king takes, you have to go queen c5, king d3, rook d8, queen e2, queen e5, queen d2, queen b2, king e1, queen a1, queen c1 here, queen d2. Now, if Jynxzi found that, I would have called up the chess.com fair play team and gotten him banned on the spot. I don't have that power, but I would have told them to investigate it because there's absolutely no chance. Not even sure a 1400 rated player, I'm not even sure a 2400 rated player in a blitz game would find that. Some of you might be offended by that, but the thing is, I say things in these videos and you say, no, I would have totally seen that. Yeah, I know it's easy to lie in the comment section. Find it in an actual game. Especially find it in a game if you're going to be streaming in front of like 70,000 people. But anyway, rook takes d4 is the winning move, but I like Jynxzi's move, queen d7 attacking this pawn. And white just totally ignores it. Not only does he ignore it, he also just hangs a bishop. Folks, you cannot attack a piece that possesses the same power as your piece if your piece is not guarded. You cannot make a diagonal attack. We could just take the bishop. Now, what's funny is actually taking this is even better because you go to the king. Taking this is easy because at least you get the same material. It's just queens and rooks. Practically speaking, I think it's probably better to take the bishop at the beginner level, but Jynxzi plays queen d4, king c2, and now this rook should come down, or the queen should come down. He spots this move, king b1, but now what? Now what? And this is why I like covering Jynxzi games now as a 400, because when you're 100, basically every move you play is garbage, and it's funny. But as a 400, you have moments of brilliance here, and here, there's only one move for black to get the advantage. Only one. You would think it's like, oh, I put my rook, or I take this pawn. No, because white is threatening queen to b4 check, hitting the king and the queen and getting the queens off the board. I'm not sure if they would have seen that, but Jynxzi plays rook e1, which is the best move. As black, you might think, oh my god, I thought it was ladder mate, but now we have to trade the rooks. What am I doing? I'm trading when I'm losing. I'm not supposed to trade pieces when I'm losing. But there is something I like to call superseding concepts, okay? A concept in chess, you hear me say this in videos all the time, you gotta simplify here, you gotta not trade a bishop for a knight, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. If you live your life really rigidly by the random rules you hear with from the YouTuber, right, you're going to miss opportunities in your games. There are some moments in chess that demand a concept and some moments in chess that demand something concrete. The reason it is good to trade here with black, despite being down material, is you remove the first rank defender. Now the king has to come forward, and this is winning for black, because you could get the rook in and the queen, and the bishop and the rook do not defend the king. So black is winning here. It's a little complicated, but you can go queen takes f2, for example, and check the king a bunch and coordinate your rook and your queen. Now, king b2, queen d2 is the move chosen, and that is the wrong move by Jynxzi, because now white can defend with the queen. You needed to get your rook down there. Rook to d2, king c3, and the way you win this position is you play rook to d1 check. This is check, and then you win the rook, and then you win the game. Instead, king b2, queen d2, the king goes back, Jynxzi plays rook d3. Now white is back in business with queen to b4 check, getting the queens off the board. White would love to trade the queen. When you are under attack, you want to trade the opponent's most powerful piece, which is generally the queen. Dantes plays queen to e6, an infiltrating move. It looks really good, but he's left his king to perish, and there is a forced checkmate here. You need to play queen d1, followed by rook d2, followed by hunting the king out this way. Very slow, methodical technique, but it's important because the queen and the rook always defend each other, and he actually does it! He does it. He hunts the king out of the corner. If he takes the rook, the king takes his rook, and the queen alone cannot win this game. So what do? You need to put something on c2. d3 doesn't work because the king goes back. He does it. Not the best piece, but it's one of the pieces. And now king to b3. And now the queen can go here and deliver a ladder. And he does it. This is what I mean. When you're 100, every move you play is bad, but when you're getting up the rating ladder, you're noticing things. You're just not noticing all the things. In this position, he played rook b2, and right here, Jynxzi has a buffet of checkmates. One of them is queen to b5, defended by the rook, and the king has no more moves. You also have the rook cutting off the king, queen a6. You need to look for checks here. Queen c2, queen d4, queen b5, queen a6. The way you find a checkmate here as a beginner is look for your most powerful attacking piece and look how to check the most weak piece. Don't do this. Because not only is pawn to b5 not a checkmate, the king now escapes. And not only does the king escape, white is winning. White is winning. Your pieces are too far, and the king is coming this way. This is insane. b4 on the board, but b4 is not even a check. And because it's not a check, it is white's turn. White can now start giving checks, and that's exactly what he does. And here comes the comeback from the League of Legends streamer. King f7, queen e6, and Jynxzi, a man of the people. He could have played king to f8. And if the boys just shuffled their pieces back and forth, it would have been a draw. But Jynxzi goes out, kicks out a window, walks the king to the G file, which incredibly is the best move. That is actually the best move. Why? Well, in this position, queen c7 was the right idea. Why queen c7 and not anything else? Because if the king goes here, then white has bishop e6. And the queen and the bishop weave what is called a checkmating net. A net is when you take all the squares away from a king at first, and then you deliver the checkmate. And yes, the king could run, but slowly he would be defeated. And it's actually insane. None of these pieces can check the king anymore. It's just wild. Anyway, Jynxzi goes here, and here white has rook to g1, which he spotted. Now, at this point in the game, I began having heart palpitations. Black has two places to put the king, h5 and h6. Which of these moves is better? It's kind of like Blue's Clues back in the day, interacting with the thing on your screen. Which of these pieces do you think is better? Which of these pieces? I'll give you a way to find this. These pieces attack on light squares. So probably you should go to a dark square. When you decide, you need to think, can my opponent check me with the queen or with the rook? King h6, and the position is equal, but Jynxzi goes king h5. And after king to h5, the game is finished. Queen g4 check, queen g4 check, king moves, ladder mate. Queen g4, king moves, ladder mate. You can't stop it. White goes here. And now, if you put the king on h6, there are no more checks. There's only queen e3, and that would be a trade. King h6. You can also go king h4, king g5, and king h6, and king g6. You should not put your king in the direct line of fire of the rook. That is exactly what Jynxzi does. Now, if white plays the move bishop to f5 check and attacks the queen, he wins the game because he wins the queen. But Dantes goes here, and Jynxzi, for a third move in a row, can put his king on a dark square. The only thing he shouldn't do is play king to f4 and king to h4. If he goes forward, he gets mated. King f4 actually is not mate, but king f4, there is mate with rook g4, followed by some other checks. Just don't go here, and don't go here. You need to go to h6, because then there's no checks. Jynxzi, once again, spends 1 entire minute and plays king to h5. And now, I could not believe this, Dantes goes here, and king h6 is on the board. White has 3 minutes and 45 seconds to find his own ladder mate. This is the 42nd move of the game. 42nd move. 7 moves ago, there was the exact same ladder mate situation over there. Here we are. Dantes plays here. He misses mate in 1. King to h5. Now, the bad news for Jynxzi is, with the king stranded like this, you might find mate by accident. You really might. You might be like, wait a minute, let me go back. Let me rethink this for a moment. Bishop to g4, queen g4. Maybe you go bishop to f5, and then, like, I don't know, you still somehow find a checkmate. There are a lot of ways to lose this game with black. Dantes here plays rook to g5, and Jynxzi takes. Was like, what? So now Jynxi's winning, but he has 2 minutes and 40 seconds to get this done. Queen g4. It still might be a draw. King h5, queen g4. Jynxzi has to put the king on h6. This is the 5th time that he can do this. So he takes king h6. This is the 5th time. This is the 6th time. The 6th time he can put queen here. And in this position, if Dantes gives this check, the game automatically ends on chess.com due to a rule called 3-time repetition. When you repeat a position 3 times, for whatever reason, Dantes goes here. Maybe he didn't want to make a draw. I don't know. Now, if you thought this was the end, it's not the end. King to h4. Dantes plays queen takes here. And if you take, this is mate. Jynxzi plays queen takes a3 check and takes the bishop. This is incredible stuff. He has 1 minute and 34 seconds. Now, here you got to be ruthless with black. White plays queen takes h7. You run the king to hide behind the pawns. White plays queen to e4. Now, with black, 40 seconds up on time, you got to win this game. You got to take this pawn. You got to promote. You got to do something. A6 check is fine. Now you give checks with your rook and your queen. Check. Every move, check. King there. Check. Fine. Rook e2. Fantastic. But why is Jynxzi spending so much time? Once again, the close quarter combat. This move loses the queen in 1. He doesn't take it. Rook takes f2. Both guys have 23 seconds on the clock. I don't know if they are clip farming. I don't know if they're geniuses. I don't know if they're nervous. Queen takes g5 check, and all of a sudden, Jynxzi is down on time. He has 11 seconds! And here, with a queen and a king stacked, I would just give checks. The thing is, you can always win the game on time by just giving checks. You can play queen c2, queen c3, rook g2, etc. Rook g2 is there. He takes. We have queen f5. And actually now, from a practical standpoint, it is white who is winning. Because here, Jynxzi has 4.5 seconds. Practically speaking, white is winning, because here with white, you just give checks. What you do here is you don't take anything, you only give checks. With 4 seconds on the clock, you will lose this game. But Dantes takes the rook because he spots that it's capturable forgetting that the queen can take, and now Jynxzi has 2.3 seconds to win this game. In theory, it is possible, because what you need to do now is queen as quickly as you can, which would take 0.3 seconds off your clock. Boom, 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 pre-move this, and then you would need to find a way to pre-move to a victory. It is possible. The best players in the world would pre-move the queen like this, and then like this, and like this, and try to slowly ladder mate. Jynxzi lasts only a couple more moves here. He tries his best, but folks, you know the saying, a perfect game of chess always ends in a draw.